This is exercise number 18 in the Paint with Lens series of short lessons. Let's paint this picture of a lane. This is a good exercise to practice your perspective. And we start the sky in the usual way with our white undercoat brushed well into the board, and I'm using a little bit of phthalo blue here. You'll notice I painted a cross on the board. Well, I'm painting the top triangle of the cross and a little bit of raw sienna in from underneath. Makes our sky glow in the distance. To get ready, I'll mix a purpley colour. We'll just use a bit of cobalt blue and run a little bit of crimson into it. Now don't mix your colours completely. I'm going to put a big daub of white paint there on my painting ready to use, and then I'll pick up a little bit of our purple that we mixed, and that will be the start of our background. Now the fun starts. We make it up as we go along. What we do, we mix the purple and the white together to give us a very dull purpley colour in the distance, and then as we come forward we get much bigger and darker. So just brush in a few brush strokes to give you the idea of getting bigger as you come towards you. And these will all be buildings up here. We don't know what it is. It might be a tree, might be a building. We're making it up as we go along. Now one of the hard things is to remain pale in the background. But do remain very pale in the background, and as you come forward you can get darker and darker. You can clean your brush down there. Now let's get a little bit of shape happening. It'll come towards us at an angle about like that. That's about it. And the other side of the lane is the same. This is why it's so good to be painting lanes. Perspective is just a normal lane, but it does all join together in a focal point right in the middle of the picture. Now we start blocking in our buildings. They get bigger as they come towards us. They're just little boxes, and they also get darker as they come towards us. I'm using a flat hog bristle brush. It's probably about a 3/4 inch wide hog bristle brush. That's about 2 centimetres. And I'm using the purple that we mixed. You'll notice too in the purple, there's all different shades of purple there. There's a blue purple and I can see a red purple. It's because I didn't mix my colours properly. I don't need to mix the colours properly. Keep them pale in the distance and slowly getting darker as they come towards us. Well, I've rushed ahead a little bit here. Block it in. Make sure that you've got all those pretty colours. Don't brush it and brush it till you've got nothing. You'll see there's some crimson and you'll see some blue in there. A little bit of everything. And make it up as you go along. Don't be too fussy. And now for the other side. Just the same thing, only different. Very pale in the distance. That looks like a tree there. Put a little bit darker tree in front of it. There's another tree. And what do we have now? Well, whatever we have, it's going to be darker as it comes towards us and bigger as it comes towards us. You'll see I'm using a straight down brush stroke. That looks more like a shed. The crisscross brush stroke looks like trees. And by having your colours loosely mixed and putting them on loosely, you get this variation of colours which looks good. You can even go as far as putting your colours on in single colour, like there's a lot of crimson in there, and put a bit of blue over the top and mix your colours that way. Or we might have a tree up there. Just brush it in. Make sure your canvas is all covered. Now I'll quickly fill in this edge of the painting with a few squares and crosses, which gives us the idea there's some sort of building there. We can build on that later. And there's a tree up the top. So we'll have a lot of mushroom shapes up here, sort of hanging over. It's great. Make it up as you go along. Do keep that perspective right. You see how big we are here and how little we were in the distance. And because it's a tree, I'm moving into the raw sienna. Let's have a little bit of raw sienna on everything. Make it look a little bit more foliage-like. Roundy tree shapes. That'll do. And across the other side, we'll have some raw sienna foliage. That's rather dark raw sienna, that one. Some of them very pale. So now it's time to start filling in our painting. I have a selection of colours here, a little bit of everything. And we'll go to the painting and we'll start putting on the colour on the sheds. Now in the distance, they're very dull colours. I'm using quite a large flat brush. It's about a 2-inch flat brush. And I've loaded it with all colours. I clean it in the middle of the road. Now back to the smaller flat brush. I'm using burnt sienna here. Put on straight and I can run a bit of white over it later. Burnt sienna is a good colour. It looks like rusty iron. So run it in straight brush strokes which will look like buildings. This is getting bigger and I'm using more colour here. So as I come forward, there's much more colour here than what there is in the background. And this shed is getting quite big, so it has big brush strokes and a lot of colour. Looks like a doorway there. So I'll put it in with a horizontal brush stroke and maybe it'll look like a roller door. And then continue down the lane, a little bit here, a little bit there. I'll put it down the lane there because my brush was loaded with a rather pale colour, which goes quite good in the distance. Make it up as you go along. Clean your brush in the middle of the road. Remember to clean your brush often by pulling it through a rag and mix your colours so you can pick up a few colours on your brush at once. And try your best not to go back over your brush strokes. Just put the paint on in single brush strokes, getting bigger and heavier as you come towards you. Maybe you need to go back and touch up a bit you missed, but do it with chunky brush strokes. And remember to keep your brush strokes going in the direction of the iron on the roof or the direction of the roof. That's burnt sienna and white I used there. And here we'll have the side in phthalo green and white because it's very close to us. I'm wondering what to put here, but I can see a fence will go well. We can just fill this area in with a fence. Put a bit of shadow and then block it in with a dark colour. A few little bits here and there that'll show there's dark and light. And then bring our fence big and bring it towards us. And then here the fence can be burnt umber. That's a foreground colour. Slope it down. Make sure it's sloping down all the way into the distance. Don't use burnt umber in the distance. Let's have something of interest here. A bit of burnt sienna. Maybe a sign, an old sign. Anything on the fence. You make it up as you go along. Clean the brush. And across the other side, the two browns on our brush at once, burnt sienna and burnt umber. We'll have a little gate there, I think. And this looks like it's going to be another shed. Let's fill it in, just design it as you go along. Clean my brush, and then we'll fill in the doorway. The doorway is much lighter tones in this occasion, just to give us a bit of contrast so you know it's there. And we'll have a straight up and down doorway, seeing we've got a horizontal doorway on the other side of the painting. And here, because it is the foreground, we can have our darkest darks and our brightest brights. So we can have quite a big brush strokes of quite a lot of bright and a lot of dark. This area here will be foliage, so keep your darks leaning into the picture. We'll put some lights on that later and colour all this in later. Now I'll colour in the lane. I'm using my darkest colour. You see I use the side of the brush in the distance and the flat of the brush in the foreground. We need a lot of paint here, so I'll put it on quickly. I'll make a few streaks coming towards me. It looks more like a road. And that's any of our dark colours. I think I use mainly the purple and a bit of burnt umber in there. Now for the edge of the road, we'll use our warm yellow. Use the tip of the brush, the side of the brush. And as I come down, I'll twist the brush and the brush will be turned flat. So the brush stroke gets much wider as it comes towards us. And let's do the same on the other side. Load the very tip of your brush. Push it on and flatten your brush as you come down. Fill it in, and that's the side of our road. Here we can blend the yellow into the purple. That'll turn it into a green. Use little brush strokes in the distance and the bigger brush strokes in the foreground, and then fill in your corner. Now I want to put those road marks in again. I use the edge of the brush and make this brush stroke bigger as I come towards me. You push the brush on harder as it comes towards you. This will give you a bit more perspective. Don't make them very obvious, just blend them in a little bit. But these could be tyre tracks or just general things. When you look up a road, you see streaks going up the road or up the lane. Yeah, that's enough. That gives us distance. Now we can colour it in with all our pretty colours. That's a little bit of phthalo green and yellow. Yeah, just keep adding your colours. Here with the dab brush stroke, we curve it around for the trees. Now this brush is loaded with quite a few colours. Just load it with lots of colour and dab round in big mushroom shapes to give you those tree shapes. And you'll see I put a few little red flowers along the fence and little bits and pieces to brighten it up. Dab. Don't go overboard with this, and make sure you leave spaces between your foliage so you can put some branches. Now I'll put a red one here, and then we'll come back soon with a very bright purple tree. If you place a little bit of white on top of your red, it always brings it out, especially in towards the middle of the picture. Bring your eye into the picture. And of course, across the other side, you can have all your pretty colours. There's always something lovely hanging over the fence in a lane. I like to walk down the lanes. You get all types of fruits and beautiful trees hanging over everyone's back fence. Dab. just put your little flowers in all along the edge of the road. And remember, as they come towards you, the dab trait gets bigger, big, vibrant dabs in the foreground because this is right near us, and little tiny ones in the background. Add some blue and white flowers. They always look pretty. White and blue, they can go in the distance also. And here and there, just a few little things. You can touch up all your mistakes here. If you've got any little bits of canvas showing, dab a few little flowers over the top. Touch it up, and here it's starting to look pretty. Now when you're filling in your foliage, keep the bright of the foliage into the picture. You'll notice I've got the sun shining on one side of the tree on this side of the picture, and on the other side of the tree on the other side of the picture. That doesn't matter. Oh yes, I just remembered, there's a lot of palms in Mullumbimby, especially down the laneways. You do them with your fan brush. They're quite easy, see? Just put them in like that. Now I've got dark and light on the fan brush. I've got dark underneath and light on top, and that'll give us a few palms. Now next we need to detail a few things, and we'll run some sunlight up the edge of the roof with my little round brush. That's a little round soft head brush. I'm holding it with 2 fingers, and I'm using a light colour. That's not quite white. It'll be white with a little bit of blue in, or a bit of purple in, just a little bit of off-white. And just run a few lines around where you think sunlight might be hitting on pieces of wood sticking out and bits and pieces. But not too much. Don't go to too much trouble, and don't detail anything, because when you look down the lane, you can't see what's going on. Until you get right up and look at something, you don't quite know what it is. And there's a lot of things that are broken and crooked, so just leave them like that. Then we need to put in our branches. Pale blue is a good colour for distant branches. Load your little fine hairbrush with a light blue and pull it up, and gravity will bring the paint off the brush for you. Try and hold your brush with 2 fingers. Ooh, those bright spots I put there are a little bit too bright. I'll just knock them back a little bit. And we can have some telegraph poles. To the telegraph pole up there, there's light and dark on that brush. It works rather well like that. And a little cross. That's enough for a telegraph pole. And another telegraph pole here. Of course, it's bigger, much taller, and a much bigger bar on it. There. You can leave these wires out if you wish. They're not easy. Just have a few wires hanging here and there, down to the shed and down to the next telegraph pole. Then of course we need to put our branches in for the trees. Now I'm going to draw a line down the edge of the road. My white paint is working rather well off this brush at the moment, so I'll do it with the brush. There we are. And down the edge of the road on the other side, we'll get a white line. And I don't want it too detailed. Just brush it in as long as it's in the right direction. We might fade that out later. You can leave your road without grass down the middle, but I need to put a bit of grass down the middle. I'll load my grass colours on the brush and just lay them on there. I'm just placing them there. I'm not exactly painting the grass yet. There's plenty of yellow, a little bit of blue, a little bit of crimson, all in there together. And with the fan brush, touch it on and move it up, and it'll turn it into grass. Try to work from your background towards the foreground and get your grass finished as you come down. There's quite big grass in the foreground, of course. And then now I've got my fan brush in my hand, I might as well smear out that road a little bit, make it look like something's been on there. There's a few reds on the road. That looks okay. Not too much though. Now I can increase the perspective by making this bit here much darker. So I'll move some darks into there, and that'll throw the background back further and look like it's right at our feet there. That's a bit dark. I'll put a few yellows over it and bring it up into big grass. There, that looks better. Well, it's not bright enough for me. I want it a bit brighter. So I'm going to go along here with some warm yellow. That'll mix in with the darker colours because my paint's still wet. I'm working in acrylics. You might be working in oils. And it'll turn it into a green. So that's a gully beside the road, and down the other side also. Let's have some bright yellows and greens in there. That looks better. I have a new colour on my palette. It's violet and white. And we'll put a jacaranda tree curving into the picture. I'll make the branches very jagged as they are with a jacaranda tree, going in all directions. They seem to hang over. They like that hanging over look. And that's brown and white on my brush at once. For the foliage on the gum tree, I'm mixing crimson and some ultramarine blue. And with my big round hog bristle brush, I'll saturate it with the dark, and then I'll pick up the violet with some white on the tip of my brush and take it across to the paint and dab the dark on the bottom and the light on top. Dab, 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 and that'll give you that beautiful jacaranda look, the dark and light of the jacaranda tree. Do clean your brush each time you reload it. Clean it by pulling it through a rag. If you don't clean it, your purples will become muddy. So do clean it. Each time you pick up the paint, pull it to a chisel point, pick up the dark on one side and the light on the other, and dab it directly on. Dab it rather firmly, and you'll get that beautiful crispy look of the trees. Because the foliage is so dark here, you may need to put white branches in the trees so they'll stand out amongst the foliage. So with your little round soft brush, paint in a few white branches, but not too many. And if you don't see them all, it doesn't matter. Just put them in roughly, and that's enough. And now with your brush loaded the same way, we can place all those beautiful jacaranda leaves that fall all over the ground when the tree molts. It loses its leaves and it looks beautiful all over the ground. There we are, dab, 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 dab. Just place a few here and there. Now, we're nearly finished. Have a look at your painting and see what else you might need to finish it off. I'll just put a few more leaves here because I think they're pretty. There we are. And I think I need a branch here, a prominent branch. Break up that area there. That's it. Just a white branch. That'll do.
Well, I'm sure you enjoyed that. You can go ahead and make your own layout now. Make sure you keep it pale in the background and come with you dark colours. And try and keep everything in perspective. It's a good exercise to work with perspective. If you work with your line on the eye line of the painting, it becomes easy to put things coming towards you, above your head, and towards you down below you. Well, I hope you enjoyed it again. Thank you very much. Bye.